Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Not Bland Show. I'm your host, Dujane Bland, and today we're just going to talk NFL and what a weekend it was once again. We're 4 weeks in, and it just seems like it's ever changing week by week. We are going to have NFL insider and Commanders insider Lake Lewis Jr. on here in a minute, and we're going to talk to him about what's going on in the league and a little bit about your Commanders as well, as not a favorable outing for the Commanders in the ATL. And if you listen to the post-game show, you understand where I'm coming from, but I will address that again with Lake and get his thoughts on that. Pretty interesting weekend. You look at teams and you look at the different teams around the league, and I think there's one really solid thing that everyone is dealing with, and that's the inconsistencies of defenses. A lot of games came down to the fact that just teams' defenses could just not stop and get the stops needed to get their opposing team off the field. You look at the game last night, the primetime Sunday night game, Green Bay and Dallas, both teams struggled to get the offenses off the field. Ends up ending in a tie, and a tie doesn't hurt you, but it doesn't help you either. Me personally, I think after one overtime period and it comes down to a tie, you should have a second overtime period, kind of like hockey, where it's like it's just field goals kickers kicking it from 50 yards until somebody misses. That way, you're not straining the players. You're not putting them through another grueling 15 minutes of football, and it gives the kicker something to do, right? It makes them more important because likely they weren't doing a whole lot of work in this football game. So they're the freshest people that are on the football team. And I think if you did that, I think it'd be exciting, and it doesn't have to end in a tie, because I just think those days are just, they got to be over with, right? I mean, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I don't really care for ending in a tie. Yeah, I'm going to talk about your birds, and we're going to talk about your birds here with Lake Lewis, who's just got into the green room, but they are on a roll. But there is some concern that I have with the birds, and we will go to a quick commercial break, and then after that, we will have on NFL insider and Commanders insider Lake Lewis Jr. VTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio. Wake up with your local sports talk, the morning warm-up with Trey Lau, every weekday from 7 to 8 a.m. And wrap up your day with the Fast Lane with Ed Lane, weekday afternoons 5 to 6. Catch the best play-by-play college football Saturdays to NFL Sundays, plus big names and shows from ESPN Radio every day. Listen anytime on the VTRN Sports app. Stream on your smart speaker by saying, "Open VTRN Sports," or tune in on the radio 93.3 FM and 1320 AM in Lynchburg. And don't forget, you can watch the morning warm-up and the Fast Lane live on YouTube at VTRN Sports Lynchburg. VTRN Sports, where local meets national.
So I'm not hearing anything.
know why, because it's me. It's me.
There-
I muted it for the commercial, so I'll say that again. We are affiliated with VTRN Sports. That's the second time I did that too. I did that last week. We are affiliated with VTRN Sports. You can find all of Sports Journey's content right there on VTRN Sports. All of the latest and greatest from us. And like I said, while I was muted, we have one of the best in the business here who covers the NFL, has been reinventing the wheel, but we've been doing that for years. It is Lake Lewis Jr. How's it going, Lake?
Hey, what's going on, little bro? How are you?
Doing great, man. You guys, you have been busy and all over the place, and just putting out fabulous work throughout this season and really throughout the preseason. This has been an interesting start to the 4 weeks of the NFL season as we have looking at all these teams, and especially this week, you saw the Commanders struggle. We watched and saw that, but it is really has been about defenses not being able to get teams off the field, especially on third down.
Yeah, it really has been, and it seems like it's definitely an offensive league right now. If you have a really good quarterback, you have a chance to win every game, and that's what's needed right now. Teams are spreading defenses out, and they're creating mismatches, and the Commanders obviously have been, the victim of that as far as offenses planning for their defense, and it's neutralizing, what defenses can do. It's almost like you have to pick your poison if you're a defense. Do you blitz or do you play zone? Do you play like a cover two? It depends on who you're playing, obviously. But I think right now the offenses seem to have the defenses on their heels.
Yeah, it shows across the league when you look at the scoreboard. A lot of tight games this week. We'll stay in the division here, and I'll start with the New York Giants. They decided that they wanted to go ahead and move on from Russ. We This is something we've seen from Russ where he's been at his last few stops. My problem with it is I believe they're running two different styles of offenses. And they weren't running that same style of offense that they were running with Jackson Dart here this past weekend. Um, his numbers weren't spectacular. I wouldn't say he had a great day, but it was definitely a better performance than what we've seen out of Russ. Now with Malik Neighbors down, this team has a great defense. Where does this offense go now without Neighbors being a part and a big piece of that puzzle?
Yeah, it's going to be tough for them to manufacture, big explosive plays as well as extend drives because Malik Neighbors is one of the best receivers in football. And it's demoralizing because the
Yeah.
move was made to go to Jackson Dart because you wanted him and Malik Neighbors, get that cohesiveness and camaraderie and grow together because, they're both young players. And now that's going to be delayed for some time. So now if I'm the Giants, I may try to lean on my running game. I think maybe now, Tracy and Scatterboo, maybe now that you kind of have that committee of running back, you try to see what they can do together to take some of that pressure off of a rookie quarterback. Because let's face it, the Chargers got him kind of, short notice. There's not any tape out on him. I
Right.
promise you, if the Chargers and Giants played 10 times, this might be the one time the Giants get that victory, regardless of what kind of defense they throw out there. And it was clearly because the Chargers weren't prepared to see what this guy could do. But now there's a little bit of tape out on him. And we'll see how, he progresses without having his main star wide receiver.
Yeah, I thought that I didn't think he was a first round talent, but I did think that Jackson Dart has all the tools. I think what's important to that really got overlooked with him is the fact that he started just like Jaden Daniels. He had a long time as a college quarterback and made several starts. Played for an excellent coach in
Mhm.
Lane, and I think with that comes a little bit of stability and a little bit of experience. Yes, not on the NFL level, but I think those guys are a little bit more prepared when you spent more than 1 or 2 years at starting quarterback. If they cannot screw this up, which has been difficult for the New York Giants not to do, I think they could possibly be a little bit better than what most people thought they would be in the division.
Yeah, I mean, I predicted the Giants to win almost 7 football games this year, and that's a big difference from last year. And I did think
Yes.
defense was going to carry them, to some wins. And let's face it, when the weather starts to change up there in New York and the Northeast, that's when that defense will really come through and shine.
Yeah.
But I was predicting at the halfway mark they would make the change to go from Russell Wilson to Jackson Dart. Obviously, they did it in week 3, week 4, so they changed it up a little bit. And now you can't go back. I mean, it's his show, regardless if he stinks the joint up or not. I don't think he will stink it up, but let's just say he did. I mean, he could be blind with one arm. The bottom line is he is your quarterback for the immediate future, and you've got to ride him out and go through all the growing pains that are going to come, because they are going to come.
Yeah, definitely. Those growing pains are definitely going to come, and they just going to have to stick with it. I think they have to at this point because Dable drafted him. You got to at least give Dable at least another year or two to see this thing through. Because I think too many times you pull the trigger too early, you're really stunting the growth of that young quarterback that you drafted. Uh, Looking at the Philadelphia Eagles, they are 4-0. But there are concerns, and those concerns for me were of the offensive coordinator variety. And I think we're seeing some issues with getting A.J. Brown the ball. Um, they are running the ball decently, but we watched the Buccaneers come from double digits back to almost win that game. Um, I'm a little bit concerned. Yes, they talent wise they are the best and have proven to be the best in the NFC. Probably top 3 or 4 teams in the NFC as a whole, but there are some glaring red flags that if defenses and defensive coordinators can key in on, could stifle this offense.
Yeah, I'll say this. They have the ingredients to win a championship again, and that's because they can run the football and they play
Yeah,
defense. But the only way you're going to get to the Eagles is you're going to have to get them into a shootout, and where they're not controlling the tempo of the game by running the ball and slowing it down and doing things like that, extending drives. You're going to have to get them into a shootout, because then it puts the onus on Jalen Hurts to beat you with his arm. And Jalen Hurts can beat teams with his arm. Make no mistake about it. I'm not sitting here and saying he can't, but if you're going to have to find a kink in the armor somewhere, that is the kink in the armor for the Eagles. I also think they're they're susceptible to big plays too. So you can
yeah,
pick their corners. I think I'm still a little not sold on Adoree Jackson as a guy that's going to lock down a receiver. So if you've got 2 really good wide receivers, you have a chance. And you saw that last week, not this previous week, but the week before with the Rams. Uh,
hmm
Rams were able to do some things against the Eagles defense. I mean, it's unforgivable the way they just caved in that football game. But you got to give the Eagles credit at home. They found a way to come back and win that football game. But the Eagles are definitely vulnerable. I would say right, it's still early, but I think Detroit is the team that's equipped to be able to beat the Eagles, because they can establish the line of scrimmage as well. That would be a really good matchup. I mean, there are other teams out there. The Rams are still out there. As quiet as kept, I still think Washington's still going to be a team that, when it's all said and done, they'll be in the mix as well. So there's the NFC has really come up. There's a lot of good football teams. Green Bay, I know they tied the Cowboys, inexcusable there, but they still have talent. And depending on where those games are played, the Eagles, will have a lot of suitors who are going to be coming for their crown.
Yeah, most definitely. There are a lot of good teams in the NFC right now. It looks like there are more than one team in the NFC South. You got both Tampa and Atlanta. You got the NFC North could be a complete division that has 4 teams in it that
Mhm.
are good. So it is I believe probably the stronger division right now than it was now looking at it from as a whole. AFC is kind of was kind of leading the charge here, but I think the NFC has kind of stepped up and kind of taken that crown a little bit. When you look at the Washington Commanders here after losing to the Atlanta Falcons, I said it in the beginning. I don't think this is a make or break loss or anything like that. I think the concerning part is how they lose. This team put up enough points. I see a lot of fan talk about wide receiver core, and I think that's absolutely bogus. And it is not that is not the issue. They put up 27 points without Terry McLaurin, without Jaden Daniels. I would like to have seen, a little bit more sticking to the run. But my problem is with Joe Witt Jr. in this defense, and the problem is that here we are. They've added some pieces that are supposed to help some of the issues and deficiencies that they had last year, and yet we are seeing some of the same issues that we saw with this defense with less talent last year. There are too much confusion on the back end for my liking, and really to me it's unnecessary because if you watch defenses lately, most people are their corners are looking downhill. They're looking to attack and play downhill. And I just feel like Washington is looking to they're vacating the space. It's like we're gonna come out and we're gonna back away and we're just hope that we're in the right spot and you keep it in front of us and hopefully you don't have anybody beat us deep. There has to be a change in philosophy. And I saw your tweet yesterday from Atlanta in regards to how the scheme was between Atlanta and this Washington defense. And it appeared to be so watching it on the broadcast and watching the all 22 today that they were just simply out schemed as offense Atlanta to Washington's defense.
Yeah, I mean, having watched the film today, it confirmed a lot what I saw yesterday being in Atlanta at the game. There were a lot of missed tackles.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of guys overplaying, their lanes and things like that, getting upfield a little too fast at times. And, a guy like Bijan Robinson, one cut and he can go underneath, and that's what he was doing. But I say this and I'll say it again. Teams are starting to borrow from each other what they see doesn't work against Washington. And what doesn't work for Washington defensively is, yes, the communication's off as far as the back end. Crossing routes confuse the heck out of this team for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first plays of the game, you see Jeremy Reeves running up to tell Trey Amos, I have that guy and you take this guy. And they're talking as the play goes on. And big play down the field to Drake London. It's just these things should not be happening at week 4 of the NFL season.
No.
It's been happening week 3, week 2, week 1 in the preseason.
Yep.
It going all the way back NFC Championship game, it was happening. So after a while, you have to start asking yourself that tough question. No one likes to throw anybody under the bus or question someone's authority or what they know, but I think it's time people start asking, what is the scheme for this defense? And we hear all the right things in the press conferences with Coach Witt. He says all the right things, but it's not translated. So something is being missed along the lines. Do they have the right players? Do they have the right defensive coordinator? Do they have the right scheme? I'm going to come out and say it. I think they have the right players. I think they could have the right coordinator, but somebody's got to bend now. This is becoming a little bit, coach, if you want it to be that way, then you got to get the right players if they're not doing their job. But you can't keep using that excuse now because they have talent. And I'm sorry, Bobby Wagner's playing outstanding football this year.
Yeah, he is.
When he's being allowed to play to what his strength is, and that's attacking the line of scrimmage. That's him staying close to the line of scrimmage to see what the offense is going to do because he knows what they're going to do. But when you have him chasing people out in the flat, that's not his, and that's not knocking Bobby Wagner. Make sure, man, that's my dude. He is doing everything he's supposed to do But when you're putting him in bad positions, what do you expect for this guy to be able to do? What do you expect for Frankie Louvu to be able to do? Those guys should never have their back to the line of scrimmage under no circumstances because they play downhill going this way, not
Yes,
going that way. That's a
exactly.
so something has to be done here, and I would suspect at some point Dan's going to have to step in because he's the defensive mind here, and I respect that he lets his coordinators do their thing. I truly do. He's the CEO of this thing, and he's letting his guys do their job. But he's the defensive wizard here, and
Yes.
he may have to help Joe a little bit because it's clear that right now, I'm not saying Joe's in over his head. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying the play calling is struggling a little bit.
Big time. Big time. And I, you know, it's either he steps in or he's got to go. My thing is this: all that bravado and all that strong talk is good when it's producing on the field.
Yeah.
But now I don't have any patience now for it when it's not being produced on the field. And this is stuff that we've been seeing since last year. And I don't want to hear fans talking about, well, there's the only fan base that talks about, well, we still don't have all the pieces. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. Arizona doesn't have all the pieces, and their defense is playing quite well. Detroit, they don't have all the pieces, and their defense is playing quite well. And to be honest with you, I'll even go as
And Baltimore has all the pieces.
all the pieces and playing terrible.
So again, you can't keep saying because that's your job as a coach.
Yes.
Tighten that communication up. And again, if people aren't doing what they're supposed to do, then you sit them and you put somebody else in. And I'm going to say this: for the last couple of weeks, they've been targeted by tight ends. They've been targeted
Yes.
by running 3 wide receiver sets and putting someone in the slot. They moved Drake London to the slot yesterday at times, specifically to get mismatches. And when I'm seeing 3 wide receivers to one side of the field and 2 corners are covering the 2 far outside receivers, but the lone slot receiver is left unattended, that's communication where either the outside linebacker or the safety that's on the back end have to communicate or something. You're putting
Yes.
guys out in a no-win situation by doing
Yep.
that. That's not on Quan Martin. That's not on Bobby Wagner. To me, that's not on Frankie Louvu on the other side, or it's not on Jeremy Reeves now. That is asking guys to think in the moment when you have the fastest, strongest guys in the world running around out there. I don't like that. And I'm tired of it because you keep hearing about fast, free, and physical. It's none of the above.
No.
When they're thinking, you can't do any of that stuff. So I'm going to say this. This is the last thing that really got to me was, you remember a couple of weeks ago, I asked Coach Witt about Marshawn being targeted. And his thing was he didn't think my question was entirely accurate. I mean, that's his prerogative to say that. And I didn't trip or anything like that. I knew that wasn't true, though. I'm not going to ask something that I know is not true.
I do too.
He was protecting his guy, and I get that. And Marshawn's my guy. Sean's my dude. I get that. But if you can't see that teams are going at him, I don't know what to tell you because they are going at him. Maybe they're not going at him to the rate that some of us may think they are, but nevertheless, he's a Pro Bowl cornerback. The teams used to never throw at. Period.
Exactly.
Might get one.
Exactly.
They're going at him with no fear. And I think that is because they see the way this defense is scrambling, like you said, and I agree with you, going back, not in attack mode. And they're just not going to win games like that. That game yesterday was Atlanta was trying to hand the game to these guys, and they couldn't
Yep.
because defensively they couldn't get these guys off the field. A team that was, blanked the week before to a not a good Carolina football team. You knew they were going to be hungry. You knew they were going to be desperate to come out and perform in front of their home crowd, and they did that. But this football game was a winnable game that should have been won All you needed was an average defensive performance. Your offense did enough with your backup quarterback. They put up 27. Without your star wide receiver, they put up 27. They did everything they needed to do to win the football game, but the defense failed them.
Yeah, and that cannot be it. I look, your next gen stats don't lie. This cat's been targeted 18 times over the 4 game stretch. There's been 11 receptions of 18 targets. That's on 124 snaps that Marshawn Lattimore has played. He has had 1 touchdown on him, but he's allowing, ladies and gentlemen, hear it, an 111.3 passer rating and a 61% catch rate percentage.
That's not good.
Women lie, men lie, numbers don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I've just said, look, I'm a Marshawn Lattimore guy, but I feel like they're not playing him to what his strengths are, and he's an attack dog, not a wave the white flag and fleet and retreat. He's an attack dog. Let them be physical, and if it means that hey, you're gonna get a couple flags, I'd rather see these guys play physical and get flagged than to be playing white flag football and get burnt and torched for touchdowns and be frustrated
I
because you're
agree.
not helping him. You're hurting him. And you're hurting the other guys out there too, who I believe are attack dogs. Look at Amos. Attacks the football. My man made up coverage, looked like Dion, making up coverage for that touchdown pass against Green Bay to knock it away. Attack dogs. So if that's the style you want to play, you got to play downhill. You can't play fleet and retreat. Doesn't work. It
Totally,
doesn't work and it hasn't worked.
totally agree. And I think that they're gonna have to make some concessions because this whole narrative that they're old and slow. I mean, again, you move slow when you don't know where you're supposed to move to. And
Exactly.
and again, I'm gonna say this because the guy said it. He said right in front of us that he likes veteran players because veteran players who may not run 4.3s still know how to get to where they need to go faster than the young guys who run 4.3s because they know where they're supposed to go. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
going to tell me that you like veteran guys and you have a bunch of them, did those veterans forget how to play football? So
No.
so something's not adding up here. And
Yep.
I know I have to go in the locker room and see these guys and talk to these coaches, but I also have a job to do, and it's not to stir the pot; it's to ask the truth. And but I expect to get the truth back. And
Yeah.
Thursday is going to be real. Unfortunately, I won't be there because I'm flying out to LA on Thursday morning. So hopefully, the question that is asked is exactly that. You have an answer for everything that's asked, but it's not translating onto the field. So what can be done better now? That's all I
Yep.
want to. What are you going to do that's going to make this better? Because DJ, I'm going to tell you what I think needs to be done. I think it needs to be scaled back some. I
That's
think
what I've been saying.
you have too much on these guys' plates right now. I don't care. They're professionals. They should be able to handle everything that comes their way. No, not at all. Some of the best defenses in the history of football were some of the most simplistic defenses. They just came at you, play after play after play. There's a reason why this team hasn't created a turnover until Mikey got one that you and I could have caught with our eyes closed because it was a
Yep.
horrific pass from Michael Penix. Okay.
Yep.
But outside of that, they're not creating turnovers. They might get the ball out, but they're not getting to the ball. The point
Nope.
is when you're thinking, you can't react fast. You just can't do what you need to do in order to be productive. So something's got to give because this could derail a promising, season before it
I
gets
agree.
if they don't fix it.
Yep, I agree. It's got to be done. And moving on to the Chargers here, this is a football team that got they got they got overwhelmed. Now, let's be honest. Had a few offensive line injuries. Joe Ott was one of those guys that went out in that game. Still, I believe they had an opportunity. They left too many plays out on the football field, they're going to go home. Washington's going out there to take them on. Their team coming off a loss. Uh, you know,
No.
there are a lot of weapons that they have. You've got Quentin Johnson, who has stepped up and become that number one, and you still got Lad McConkey to worry about. And Hamilton, I've been trying to tell people, Hamilton is not a running back to be overlooked in this football game. He will put it up on you, and he is physical. He has got that little scatterboo in him. He will run you over.
Yeah, I like Amarion Hampton quite a bit. I do. I liked him in North Carolina, and I thought him and Genty were the two best backs coming out. Um, and you can't forget, about the old man either. Keenan Allen. So
Yep.
they have weapons. They have a lot of them. And they're going to be pretty pissed off because they lost to Giants without a Malik Neighbors, pretty much because that happened early in the game and on a rookie.
Yep.
So are you who you think you're going to be? So that's the question. Are they this team that people were saying might be the best team outside of Buffalo in the AFC? Or are they what some of us thought, too early for all that kind of chatter? So they're going to come home and they're going to be mad and desperate to get a win as well. So if you're Washington, it doesn't get any easier now. You're going to be on the road again, and you have not performed at all. I'm not going to even say well. You haven't performed at all on the road this year. You stunk it up
No.
you stunk it up yesterday. Offensively, they did enough to win that football game. And I think defensively, ironically, in the Green Bay game, I thought they did enough to be there. So but this is a football team that has to put it all together. When they put all three facets together and play complementary football, you see the results like you did against the Giants. You see the results that you did just 2 weeks ago against the Raiders. So, and those aren't really necessarily teams that people are beating their chest about making the playoffs either. So you've got
Exactly.
a quality win, and you've got to get one against a good football team. The fortunate thing is I think Jaden will be back for this game going home, and that could be something that gives guys a boost, gives them some more hope. Not to take anything away from Marcus, because Marcus has played outstanding,
Yes.
under the situation, but he's not Jaden. And there's some things that Jaden could have done in the Atlanta game yesterday that I think could have extended some drives and things like that. So hopefully, he'll be 100% healthy, which I think he should be if they're going to play him.
Yeah, that should be a good boost for Washington. Looking on to the AFC, and I really, after a weird start for Liam Cohen in the press conference, he has really had he has preached physicality and discipline, but playing with an attitude. And that defense has played with quite an attitude. They really helped them win this ball game as the offense starts to come along. They defensively are looking like they once did a few years ago, really getting turnovers. They had nine all of last season. They now, through 4 games, have 13 turnovers as a defense, and we're 4 weeks in. Uh,
13.
re- really good stuff by Liam Cohen and what he is producing over there in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, and he showed fire, after the game yesterday. He was ready to box, So my
Yep,
is guys see stuff like that, and they see if my coach is willing to put it on the line and get dropped, because he would have got dropped. I'm
yes,
sorry,
he would have.
Paul is a big dude. If he's willing to put it on the line, literally for me, I'm gonna put it on the line for him. And they look like they're having fun. That's
Yeah,
the thing that really jumps off. Is like they're attentive to him, they're having fun, and they look like a modern outfit finally, because we know this has been a bad setup in Jacksonville for a couple of years now.
mm-hmm.
Going back to the Urban Meyer situation, it was just bad. And
Yep,
maybe this kind of lights the fire. Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he only had 171, I think, yesterday, but Travis Etienne ran the football, and
yep,
again, play defense, run the football. you can be in football games to steal them at the end, and that's
Yep.
exactly what Jacksonville's doing. They're closing games out on some teams, and they beat a good football team. I mean, I know the 49ers have had their injury bug, and they're playing with a different quarterback and all this stuff, and I get it, but that still nevertheless was a quality win for a young team that sits at 3-1 right now. So
Yeah.
leaving, why not us? What was once thought to be the worst division in all of football has actually turned out to be surprisingly pretty decent. And I know the Texans finally got a win yesterday,
Yeah.
and we know that they'll recover. They're a good team, playoff caliber team over the years. But if you look at Indy and now Jacksonville, that division's kind of turned the corner a little bit.
It has. There's two things that I look forward to these next three games that they have. They have the Kansas City Chiefs at home. They're on a three game home stretch of Kansas City Chiefs, Seattle Seahawks, and the Los Angeles Rams. There are two things I need them to clean up, and they need to be cleaned up this week. They are in the penalty department. They have had 38 penalties for a total of 308 yards. That, my friends, is unacceptable. Washington is not too far off with 30 penalties and 223 yards, but 308 yards, that is dead last in the league. They're averaging 9.5 penalties per game. That has to be cleaned up. Those things, giving freebies, giving freebies, get out of jail free cards, and setting your offense back at key moments in drives, you're leaving money on the table. That can't happen. And they have to, in the same breath, they have to convert third down. They were 28% yesterday and on third down. You can't be piss poor on third down. That means you're leaving points off the board and you're leaving points on the table that should have been gotten. If they can clean those things up, they have a real good shot to win all three of these games, especially being at home. But these teams do not give you anything. And if you make these type of mistakes, these three teams will make you pay.
Yeah, I actually think that if you're a Jaguars fan, you might think if they can come out of that stretch 2-1, you might have a legitimate playoff team.
Yes.
You don't have to win all three. I mean, obviously you want to. That's the objective. That would be an ask. That would be a big ask to do for them. But if you can win 2 out of 3 against these teams that are playoff teams, basically, Seattle's trending upward too. With
Yes.
Mike McDonald. So, yeah, I mean, Jacksonville has a chance to really see who they are and where they are in Liam Cohen's, early tenure. And I'm telling you, that's the kind of stuff that builds momentum. Perhaps they could be what Washington was last year.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but once you start getting some wins under your belt and you start believing, you know what, we can play with these guys. We can win these games now. They just got to get a couple bigger wins under their belt. It starts with Kansas City. You get Kansas City, who's wounded and needs every win they can get right now,
Mm-hmm.
you could be sending a signal. So it'll be an interesting game for that one.
Definitely will be. I'm looking forward to that one as well. Staying in the division and looking at the Tennessee Titans. uh, Young quarterback. They're still trying to formulate who they are. Personally, though, I do not believe they have the head coach that can execute that. And, given the circumstances, and you look at what happened over the last couple of weeks, you look at what happened yesterday, they really look like a team that just is not well coached. They got out coached on both sides of the ball. They didn't get any points on the board, and you can't blame that on a young quarterback. They have some pieces out there. I just don't think that. I think this coach is a little bit in over his head, so to speak. And I don't see how they are respectable for this year And if you're going to make a change with some of the people that are probably going to be available, I'm not going to say Cliff Kingsbury because I don't want to see that. But you have some pretty good football minds out there that will be available. Mike McCarthy comes to mind as well, that can stabilize this organization. So, I think he's on the hot seat.
He should be on the hot seat, because they just look disjointed. I mean, they're not playing professional football right now.
Mm-mm.
And I like him a bit. I really do. But let's face it, that kid's going to need some horses around him too, in order to really keep it going. He's going to need another tight end or two. So there's a lot to be desired if you're a Titans fan, and unfortunately, you just have to sit back and watch because um, the teams in that division are young and growing and coming. And the other thing too that those other three teams have that Tennessee doesn't, they have better offensive line play. When you got a
Yeah.
young quarterback and your offensive line is having him run for his life, that's not going to get anything done. So they're going to have to address some of that stuff too.
Yeah, definitely got to get that done. Got to clean that stuff up if they want to have an opportunity to really even win some games here this year. Uh, Looking at Baltimore, just up the road there, they seem to be a team that again used for Tennessee. They seem to be disjointed as well. They don't seem to be themselves. I know they're missing some pieces on defense, but I don't think that's a problem. I think they have enough pieces to get the job done. And offensively, it just seems like they cannot get into a rhythm. Uh, Having your camera went to the back. There you go. Having a quarterback that now we don't know whether he's going to be from day to day, whether what the status is. And I don't feel like they've been leaning on the run like they should have been. They really seem out of sorts, and I hear a lot of chatter of maybe the voice in the room, Mr. Harbaugh, is growing a little stale.
Yeah, I think that might be the case. Special teams is always his strong point, and they're still strong. But the Ravens' identity has changed. They're no
Mm-hmm.
longer a defensive team; they're an offensive team, and it's just right now it's not clicking. That Kansas City game showed me a team that's not joined together. Like they just, it was probably as bad as I've seen Baltimore look in a
Yeah.
long. Um, Buffalo lost the first game. They caved in. They had that game won. I don't know if they've recovered from that yet. And then they come back against Detroit. Detroit comes into Baltimore and back alley slapped them. There's nothing you can say about that. So they've had teams take their lunch money. Baltimore
Right.
used to be the team that took the lunch money. Now teams are taking their lunch money and asking them what, like they're not
Exactly.
there anymore. And they're going to have to figure a way to get that back because they have tons of talent on
Yes.
sides of the ball. But yeah, you're right. If something's not happening there, you start to wonder. Sometimes people just wear the welcome out. You've had success, you've won Super Bowls, you're loved, but sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes it's just a change of scenery might be coming. It reminds me of the of little brother out in L.A. At one point, that's what was happening at Michigan.
Yep.
And he won that championship, but still, it's just like maybe it's just time. For everybody to go their own way. And I'm not saying that Baltimore should be thinking about getting rid of John Harbaugh because that would be lunacy. But you may have to ask him where is he with this because they don't look like the same football team at all. They were my team to get to the Super Bowl out of the AFC this year. Still could very well happen, but the way they look Sunday against the Chiefs, that's not happening. They don't look
Yeah.
like a team right now.
Yeah, they don't. They really don't, and they definitely got to find it. I tell you what, if that job comes available, Cliff Kingsbury, you better go get that job.
Well,
Yeah, you got to go get that job.
be one that would be definitely something forward. But see, the problem is, I think Cliff, unless he goes to a team that has an established star like Lamar, he goes with Marcus, And I also think that he goes to a team that may want to change everything. And Baltimore's not that team. They're not changing
Right.
much. So
Right.
I think Tennessee could be a fit, because you could bring Marcus, but the thing is, I think wherever Marcus goes with Cliff, Marcus is the starter until
I
they
do too.
groom their quarterback. Well, it couldn't be Tennessee because Cam Ward would clearly be the starter. Um,
Yep.
I'm going to tell you, me personally, and I do have to tell you this. I do have to get ready to run here, so in a second.
Yeah.
But I do think that the ideal fit for Cliff, to me, because I know Cliff, I know the lifestyle, I know the swag.
Yeah.
Also, know Cliff could go there with Marcus and potentially Lance Newmark. You could poach Washington and get your GM as well.
Right.
I think it's the Dolphins.
That's a good spot.
Yeah, that
And
is.
that does fit him. That does really fit him. When you think about Cliff and
Yeah,
his swag and who he is, like that fits him, and that would be a perfect spot
get
for
them out
him.
the division, out the conference as well.
Yep.
So
Yep. They don't have to meet.
yeah, I think that would be the ideal place for him, and I think honestly it might be the only place for him right now because he doesn't need to leave here. So, but Miami is different. You get that,
It's
you get a lot. Let's just put it that.
everything. Well, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you out of here with this. Tonight's games, I am not a fan of two Monday Night Football games on the docket. Uh, the New York Jets, I believe, are playing pretty solid football, and I think that's because of Aaron Glenn and his stability that he brings, professionalism that he brings to the table. They play Miami tonight, and the Cincinnati Bengals and the Denver Broncos. Who do you got in both of those games?
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the Dolphins at home. They showed that they were starting to move the ball around a little bit,
Mhm.
week or two. So I'm gonna take them. They're due. They need one bad. The Jets are still rebuilding. It is what it is. They're playing much better, but I don't think most expected a lot out of Aaron Glenn's first year. But just to bring back more professionalism and cohesiveness. So I'm going to take the Giants. It's an AFC East game. It'll be a close one, but I think the Giants win. I think they cover the spread of 2.5 as well. And then what was the second game? It was Cincinnati
Cincinnati and Denver.
and Denver. Exactly. It's in Denver too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Denver covering the spread. I think that's going to be a beatdown tonight. Honestly, I could see Denver winning that game by 17 or more. Honestly.
Yeah, it's unfortunate the situation that Cincinnati's in, but yeah, I don't see that being a game that will be watchable after about a quarter and a half. So,
Game planning. Cincinnati has to get the ball to Jamar Chase. Well, that's what you put Patrick Surtain on.
yeah,
It's going to be interesting to see how that goes, but I don't think Cincinnati has a shot to beat them, especially after losing the way they did last week. I think they're going to be an angry team too, and Cincinnati
yeah,
the one to get the blows.
yeah, yeah, indeed. Well, like let everybody know what you got going on and where they can follow you at and see all your great work.
Yeah, you can check me out on social media at Lake Lewis Jr. You can subscribe to my podcast/radio shows, the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. Uh, that's on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube. You can subscribe to it in audio on all the podcast carriers, and you can listen to it on Radio One in DC. And then, you can check me out here in Richmond. I'm insider for CBS 6 television here, and then also the insider for ESPN radio here. So you can check me out there. And then, of course, you can check me out as well as my good friend right here, DJ, on heavy.com, producing some NFL content on there. So, yeah, and I got some other stuff coming up, with this Shield. So, yeah, we're
Yeah,
excited.
very much so excited, and I can't wait till we can let the cat out of the bag. Well,
Yeah.
Lake, thanks for taking the time to come on the show, and look forward to talking to you again real soon.
All right, man. I appreciate you. Good doing this with you as always, and you know how proud I am of you, man. Just how you've come up and you've stuck with this stuff, and look at how it pays off. And as you and I always say, God doesn't make mistakes. So you keep doing what you're doing, little bro.
Indeed, indeed. Thanks, bro. Talk to you soon.
Okay, take care, brother.
Lake Lewis, everybody. And we're going to take a commercial break. We'll come back. We'll shut this show down after the break.
Drag racing fans, check out Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It's the free, family-friendly fantasy bracket game. Now, after final qualifying at every national event, you can fill out your bracket for all the pro classes.
It's free, easy to click on your picks. If you need some help, just hit the randomizer button to fill in the blanks. It's for fun, stay engaged, and pick your winners today.
Well, go sign up for Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It is still going on. We are in the playoff part of this nice bracket game. You can go there. You don't have to have any experience in knowing NHRA drag racing, okay? A lot of you guys who don't have any experience with it likely are more likely to win than those of us who do know about drag racing, as we overthink a lot of things when it comes to making our picks during each and every race. They are 3 weeks into the NHRA countdown, as we like to call it, the playoffs. And we will discuss that tomorrow on tomorrow's show, 7 p.m. I will have IHRA and Speed Sport 1 historian and owner and founder of DragRaceReference.com, Dave W. He will be on the show tomorrow to talk all things NHRA and IHRA, as IHRA had another event this past weekend at Durana Dragway in Salem, Ohio. Really good event. Very much surprises of those who won the Ironman, and we'll break it all down and talk all about it tomorrow. I'm going to tell you tonight, I'm going with the likes of the Miami Dolphins as well. I want to pick the Jets. I really do. But at the same time, it's tough because they're still trying to learn. They're still trying to establish who they are. And so on Monday night, they've taken 3 losses. I'm going to go with the Dolphins, and I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos over the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, I just don't think when you have a backup quarterback like that, although he has some experience, I wouldn't put him in the upper echelon of backups. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in for today's show. And as always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the show. When you hit the like button on our YouTube show, it helps getting it out and helps it kind of get the thing going for the algorithm. You know how that stuff goes with that. I want to thank Everything Nitro, of course, our sponsor, Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. Really thank them for what they've done. And of course, again, you can find our work here at Sports Journey at sportsjourney.com. And you can also find it on VTRN Sports, as we are now an affiliate of VTRN Sports. And you can check out their different podcasts, Ed Lane, Fast Lane, in the morning warm-up, I believe that's what it is, with Trey Lyle. Look, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's show. Have fun watching the games tonight. And man, I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow as we talk everything drag racing on tomorrow's show. Well, ladies and gentlemen, until then, good night.